So, welcome to another Courage to Change podcast. I am joined today with Mike, as always, and our friend Hash. Well, what are we going to talk about today, Hash?
Psilocybin. Psilocybins is my favorite, but microdosing and macrodosing, but primarily microdosing for the addiction benefits, the mental health benefits, just the life benefit, all the benefits it can bring to your life.
I used to pick them and sell them.
Me too. Back in the day.
Oh yeah, I know right where the good places are.
So, how do you feel about psilocybin mushrooms right now?
I don't know much about the microdosing or any of that, but I know what they did to me back in the day, but they weren't prescribed. They were picked out of a cow field off of cow poop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So you weren't doing it intentionally or medically?
I was doing it intentionally, but not for medical purposes.
So did I back in the day.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say too, that obviously I'm in recovery, Mike's in recovery. But I will say this about that. It wasn't, so I had been following the science since like 2014, 2015. And I found an organization called MAPS. It's the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies. And I contribute to them on a monthly basis. And when the science started coming out of Johns Hopkins and NYU, that first and foremost, this was about in 2017 or 2018 when I learned this, there are no addictive hooks. And I can speak to my own journey, my own lived experience, where in 2021, I microdosed psilocybins. And a microdose means a minute amount where you do not feel any hallucinogenic effects at all. So at the time, I worked 4 10-hour days. So on my 3 days off, I would microdose. No hallucinogenic effects at all. And I did that consistently for 5 months. And at one point during that 5 months, I decided to macrodose, which meant I took about 3 grams to get the hallucinogenic effects. I had done it like you way back in the day when I was getting high. And again, when I found out the science says there's no addictive hooks, I did not feel the ethical dilemma around, oh God, this is me relapsing. Because that was my big push against it. Super happy that science was happening, super happy, all of that, but wouldn't engage in it until I saw the science. And once I did, I felt confident that this would be all right. And my intention was to address my anxiety. And so what happens with the microdosing and how it can be really beneficial is it creates new neural pathways in your brain, which helps you get out of the deep rutted, think of like a dirt road that's driven on a lot, and the ruts get really deep, and they often can get so deep that you couldn't even turn your vehicle out of it if you wanted to because the ruts are so deep. And that's what happens with our neural pathways that start when we're born and continue on through our childhood and into our adulthood. And it's almost impossible to get out of those. It's really, really hard. So with microdosing, you can get out of it. Your body, your brain creates new neural pathways for you to take. And I will say that at the end of it, anxiety, which had played a big role in my life, right? So at the time that I was doing this, I was like 29, 30, almost 30 years sober. And my anxiety played out in being very impulsive with my actions and my words, anger, obsessive thoughts. Like it just was a big piece of me that I didn't want to battle any longer. And I didn't really know how to master it, control it, or get out of it. And when I started seeing the science coming out about the psilocybins, I was like, oh, well, this could be a track. And it really, I just felt it here in my heart. Like it really felt like the right step to take. And my anxiety dropped down to, it's super manageable now. And there are times once in a while when I get anxious about something, but nothing like the way that it used to be for me.
So the issue with a provider suggesting that to a client, there's a stigma against it.
Yes. So in 1971, Nixon decided to Schedule 1 all psychedelics, everything. And so all the science stopped. Prior to that, there was science happening around LSD, MDMA, which a lot of people know as ecstasy. MDMA was being widely used in the psychiatric field through the 50s and the 60s. But when you Schedule I a drug, so you think about it where opiates are a Schedule II, but all hallucinogenics were a Schedule I, which meant there were no medical benefits and a high propensity for addiction. And that's not the case. But Nixon did that. He also took us off the gold standard. He made a lot of really poor choices. However, that is when sort of this cultural piece around psychedelics will kill you, psychedelics will kill you, like this is awful, this is bad. And that has just perpetuated over the decades. But through science, like NYU and Johns Hopkins built a whole wing just to study the effects of psilocybins. And one of the things that they did is they took people with terminal illness and they macrodosed people in a controlled study. They macrodosed them in a therapeutic environment with doctors and all of the things there and therapists. And they thought maybe 50-50 people would come out of it and be better. They were absolutely shocked that it was over 97% of the people came out of that study and had made peace with the end of their life. Mm-hmm. They were absolutely shocked at how well it worked. And so Ibogaine just recently, which Ibogaine has been used in Mexico to address opioid disorder and PTSD. Like, if you want to get high, you're going to go and do the things that you want to do to get high. That was never my intention. I had two things I wanted to address: the grief around losing my grandmother in 2019, which was overwhelming for me, and my anxiety, which had plagued me my entire life. And during that time, I did macrodose one Saturday, about 9 a.m. I took 3 grams, and I had meditated prior to taking it and wanting to really lean into the grief of my grandmother and to heal from that, or partly heal, whatever. And honestly, none of that happened, but I spent like 2.5 hours just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And that felt really good. That was really lovely. So around 11 or noon, I wasn't high anymore. Everything was fine. And I went on about my day and did my things, whatever it was. And about 10 o'clock that night, I went to bed. And so now it'd been multiple hours since I had felt any of the effects. And I had a dream that night about my grandmother, the only one I have had. And it was incredibly amazing. And in my dream, she's sitting and just looking at me, and it's pure white everywhere. And she's just sitting and looking at me. She never says anything, but she is looking at me with like all the love in the universe. And in my dream, I'm sobbing and laughing at the same time. And I'm like, Grandma, I just need to know you're okay. I just want to know you're okay. And when I woke up that morning, it was like a huge weight had been lifted off of me. And now I could talk about her without like breaking down sobbing. Mm-hmm. Like for a couple of years, I wouldn't even talk about her because I couldn't manage my emotions around it. But then after that, like I could talk about her today. And then I macrodosed, I don't know, maybe 4 more times over the next couple of years. And it was really fun every time. And nothing bad happened. But I did microdose for 5 straight months. And I'm actually in the process of growing my own mushrooms. And I will be microdosing those when they're ready to harvest. But I'm in the process of doing that right now so that I know the source.
What do you think about that, Mike?
What do you think about that, Mike?
Well, to each their own. I get it. I guess everybody deals with grief and whatnot different. And I've been surrounded by death all my life. You know, my best friend dying, you know, in my front yard. I mean, another friend of mine when I was 18 was hit by a train at my birthday party. And just, you know, everybody deals with grief differently. My mom passed away when I was about 5 years clean. And my dad and my sister actually passed away next, and then my dad. But, and don't get me wrong, I grieved for a long time. For my mom, it was probably, you know, a couple of months. But I was, also working a strong program. I had a sponsor, and I was working the steps hard. And, if I hadn't had that support group, it may have been a different story, but I had a lot of people around me that were supportive. And, I don't know. That's just the way I work through grief and the way I deal with it. I personally, I've been clean for a long time, going on 27 years. And, I don't know. I guess I just have a different mechanism in coping with life and death. And I'll tell you, when my mom passed away, and I know for a fact, I actually died at and was brought back in the hospital. And, I was looking down at my own body, right? And then, boom, I was back with all the pain, because it was after I'd had a back surgery and they overdosed me on, what did they give it? Versed or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but some opiate they overdosed me on, because nurse came in, asked me how I was feeling. Oh yeah, I'm in pain. So they give me another shot. 15 minutes later, the nurse didn't write it down. Shift change came in. The next nurse gave me another shot in 15 minutes, and that overdosed me. And, I quit breathing. And I remember that very clearly. I remember that part of it. But there was, I know there was life after, because when my mom passed away, and people will say I'm crazy, but I have the pictures to prove it. It was at Christmas, and she died just before Christmas. And my dad was there, and the whole family. I was taking pictures, and my nieces were taking pictures, and out of two different cameras, we got the same perfect orbs flying around the room. And I blew one of those pictures up, which I have somewhere at my house, but it's a perfect circle with like lightning in the center of it, just emanating to the outside edges. And in my heart, I know that was my mom being there at Christmas time with everybody, because she was one of those people that started buying in October, which I picked up that trade. I do the same thing. But so everybody had Christmas gifts from her, that was at the house. And because that's just the way she was. But anyway, with that being said, I know there's life after death. And I don't know if I believe that. I've always had a higher power. And those ideas have, flown back and forth over the years. But I do know there's life after death. There's no doubt in my mind. And so to me, that brings ease when I lose someone, knowing that at some point I'm going to see them again. And, I don't know. That's just the way I kind of deal with it. I just believe in that. But some people may say I'm crazy or whatever. I don't care. But that's just the way I feel about it. And microdosing, I don't know enough about it, to really comment on that. Other than, I thought a lot about it. Matter of fact, I was talking to somebody about it today. Similar situations anyway, where, an alcoholic was, downplaying an addict, and the addict was downplaying the meth head, the tweakers. And so it's like this thing, the tweakers against the heads against the, alcoholics. It's like, we're all addicts. We're all the same. I don't give a shit what you are. An addiction is an addiction. And even in sobriety, I found my, shopping addiction, early on. And, it seemed that didn't make me happy either. But, I don't know. I'm just jumping all over the place. But anyway, where should I go from there? I don't know. I'm lost now. But I'm grateful that I guess I'm grateful for where I'm at and how I learned to process those things over the years. And I realize everybody's different.
Yeah.
None of us are the same.
Yeah.
So, and I do agree with, some MAP programs, and Hash and I work together getting people into detox, out of THS, and I do with others. But yeah, matter of fact, I took one today. I got to tell you the story.
Okay.
So this morning, my phone starts ringing at 6:30 in the morning. this guy's wanting to go to detox. So I said, okay, send me your name and your address, and I'll come get you, and we'll go. So he goes, 10 minutes later, he texts me back, well, I got to call him back at 8 o'clock because I haven't been approved yet. So I said, okay. So I wait till 8 o'clock, 8:30 comes around. He finally calls me and says, okay, they got me, and I'm cleared to go. So I call to verify it, and they say, yeah, you can come. So I jump in the van and go to pick him up and get there. And I said, do you have any drugs, alcohol, or paraphernalia? Yeah. And I go, well, let's get rid of them now. And he goes, no, I'll find another ride. Right. And he gets out of the van and he leaves. And said, okay, fine. So I go back home, and then about an hour later, he calls me and says, okay, I'm ready to go now. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I used all my drugs. Right. So I go and pick him up, and I get him to detox. Right. And he's sending me these big long texts, how grateful he was and all. But, that was 3 times I'd made an effort to get him there, and I didn't hold any judgment. I know how it is. I work with it all the time. So, I don't get angry at those things like a lot of people probably would, because I've done it so many times. I know the addict mind, and, when they're not ready, they're not ready. There's no forcing them into it.
No.
There's no dragging their drugs out of their pocket, until they're ready, they're not ready. Well, he was finally ready after he was broke and had no more drugs.
Exactly.
But anyway.
He knows he's going to start detoxing.
Yeah. And he wants to go to treatment, and, that'll be a good thing. We'll see what happens. But, seemed like a good dude.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning of your sobriety, you've been working with these clients for a long time. What was your first inclination on Suboxone and methadone?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, there again, I was a 12-step guy. But there were a lot of, stigmas around it, right? And I didn't know that much about it. I mean, I had actually gotten people into the Suboxone program early on, 20 plus years ago, before it was legal. You had to go to a specialist down in Seattle, and he would they had to have a, an administrator. And so the doctor would figure out the dose, which at that point was 2 milligrams it was 6 milligrams in the morning and 6 milligrams at night.
Suboxone?
Suboxone.
Yeah.
And then they would give me the pills, and they had to come to me to get their dose every day. And, because they didn't want it to be abused. I don't think they knew enough about it, because it was really a clinical study, even though you had to pay for it. And it was called 6 months to freedom, is what they called it at that point. And so after 2 weeks, the doctor would say, okay, cut that dose down to half a pill in the morning and half a pill at night. Right. And it went like that. And by the time 3 or 4 months came around, most of the people that I had been dealing with that had, were heroin back then, right? There was no fentanyl yet. But after 3 or 4 months, they'd say, I'm good. I don't need it anymore, and it just went away. And I'd take the pills back to the doctor and say, well, they're good. And, that actually worked on about 3 of the 6 people I took down there that are still clean and sober today, but they also had kids and families and things they wanted to get back. And in that short period of time, they were able to work a program and get back into it. But today, with fentanyl is so much stronger than heroin. I'm a little more apt to it. I think that there should always be a plan to get off of whatever substance, methadone, Suboxone, any of it. And only because, it's that's just my feeling. I just feel that people should have a plan. If you go into it with no plan, and I just see a big pharma, mill, just switching from one drug to another, just like it was when I was using. If I had a bad time on mescaline, then I would quit that and start using LSD or whatever it might be. It was just switching from one drug to another. But I don't hold those, I don't say there's anything wrong with it to people. If that's what they feel they need, then that's what they feel they need, but I also see them being abused a lot in this industry with, Suboxone. I mean, they scrape it and smoke it and they do all sorts of shit with it now. And I mean, it's just what it is, an addict's an addict until they're ready. They're not ready to stop anything. So that's kind of my feeling.
So one of the issues you brought up was they changed the formula on Suboxone to make it more addictive.
I think so.
And the pharmaceutical companies now have these addicts in their grips to where Suboxone's harder to get off of than the heroin, or even the fentanyl would have been.
Yeah.
And so, we're talking about something that resets your neural pathways as Suboxone does. But it's also, they've got them now in a vice grip with this.
Well,
so mushrooms.
Suboxone does not reset your neural pathways. What it does is it goes in and it fills up 50 to 75% of the receptor sites for opiates. Think about it like little buckets, right?
Yep.
Doing heroin goes into the receptor sites. Suboxone fills 50 to 75% of the bucket. And it does not, well, the scraping and smoking I can't speak to, but if you're taking Suboxone as prescribed, it does not get you high. It keeps you from going into withdrawals. It's the withdrawal portion of opioids that keeps people out there. Like, let's be honest, the people on fentanyl, I work for a methadone clinic, and the people on fentanyl, they're not getting high anymore.
Yeah.
They're just not getting dope sick.
Yeah.
Right. And so methadone, I think, is better in a sense. And I've been doing this as an addiction counselor for 12 years. And I came to methadone because I wanted to learn something new. I had done all the things in my field and I was kind of bored and I wanted something new. So I came to methadone to learn. And the one thing that I really like about it is that you can withdraw off it slowly so that you don't get dope sick, but more importantly, you don't get cravings. Right? Those are the two things we look for a therapeutic dose. People can handle a minimal amount of withdrawal. They can move through that. But cravings, as you know, like that's a really, really hard one to get over. So my thing is I really push no cravings. So let's titrate down slowly to give you the best opportunity possible to be successful at what you're trying to do. And I'm on board with that 100%. Anytime a client comes to me and is like, man, I think I want to start dropping my dose. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that looks like and, how that's going to work. And often at that point, they've worked themselves up to where they get 27 carries. So they come in basically once a month, they dose at the window and they pick up 27 carries, right? So it's 28. And when they want to start titrating or dropping their dose, I say, why don't we go back to 13 carries? That way, if you drop a little fast and you're getting dope sick, you're not stuck with that for 27 days. You're stuck with it for 13 days, right? Mm-hmm. Or even go back to weeklies, depending on how they want to titrate down. And so, and I also recommend they meet with one of our providers who can speak to the medical piece much better than I can with far more education. I just know what I have watched other clients do and how it's worked for them. And that's the knowledge I can share. I can't necessarily speak to the medical piece, but when they were like, yeah, I want to drop 10 milligrams every week, which, is 40 milligrams in a month. That's a lot. Right.
That would cause the medical withdrawal as well.
Oh yeah. So, we should we should definitely have a conversation about that. I'm not going to talk them out of it, but I'm going to ask questions through motivational interviewing. I'm going to make reflective statements, ask reflective questions, talk about why they feel they need to get off of it so fast and what that's about. And if they want to do it, it's not up to me, right? And I will be like, okay, but it is worth a 10, 15 minute conversation, right? Talk about that. Mm-hmm. And they often change their mind because it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason that anybody should withdraw from methadone and be sick while they're doing it. Like that really kills the whole purpose of why you're here in the first place, right?
Yeah. And there again, I think that's a lot of it's a frame of mind. When they're ready, they're ready.
Right.
And I'll go along with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the difference is, I remember when my sister was in the methadone program in the beginning, if they used heroin, while using methadone, they'd say, okay, well, you go use your heroin. You can't get methadone anymore. And that was 20 plus years ago, and she actually, when she passed away, she was on methadone. But
did she overdose?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the methadone and heroin. Yeah, same with, your receptor sites can only contain so much, right? They can only fill to a certain point. And when it gets past that point, that's when overdose happens. So if you're mixing methadone and heroin,
methadone, heroin, alcohol, whatever else.
Yeah, and then alcohol, we UA people randomly every single month. And if there's alcohol or benzos in their urine, we immediately will put them on a 21-day titrate because the opportunity for overdose is incredibly high.
Yeah.
When it comes to benzos, alcohol, and methadone, you can't mix those.
Yeah,
things.
Benzos have become a big thing lately. Well, in the last couple of years, anyway.
Yeah.
So, is that part of your issue with the MAT? Is that the clients can continue to use?
Partially, yeah, that they continue to use, fentanyl or whatever they're doing. So, and I guess if they're taking on methadone, why is it they continue to use meth and fentanyl?
Well, I'll tell you at least what I see is those are the people that are at a really low dose. They're like 60, maybe 80 milligrams of methadone, and they're not dosing every day. Like you look at their dosing history and it's like, maybe they're engaged 30% of the month or 40% of the month they're dosing, right? So they're coming in once or twice a week. Like they're not dosing every day. Their dose isn't nearly high enough. And you can see where with heroin, like when I came into the field 12 years ago, heroin was the thing. I did not work in methadone then, but heroin was the drug. I worked in detox. I worked in intensive inpatient. I worked in outpatient, blah, blah, blah. But anywhere from like about 90 to maybe 130 milligrams, somewhere in there with methadone, people could stay off heroin and be really successful at it. But you have to dose every day and you have to get yourself to a therapeutic dose, right? So you meet with the prescriber for 10, 15 minutes. And you're like, yep, my dose isn't high enough. And they bump you up 15 milligrams. So you do that, right? But we're seeing with fentanyl, people's doses of methadone have to be a lot higher. It's almost like...
Yeah, it's 50 times stronger than heroin.
Yeah, and it's almost like heroin would fill the receptor site up, but fentanyl like stretches it out. That's not science, but that's how I see it, is like it really stretches it out like a pair of socks that you really like. You stretch out the elastic at the top and they keep falling. So it takes a lot more methadone to get them to a therapeutic level. And these people, they're over 200 milligrams and they are absolutely high functioning. You would never know. When people are falling asleep or falling out, their dose is too high, right? And so
I see that on Suboxone too.
Yeah, their dose is too high. But they're not, it's not that, methadone, Suboxone, they're opiates. They're in the opiate family, but they are not the kind of opiates that get you high. At worst, you fall asleep. You can't stay awake, but you're not getting high, right? So I know in the 12-step community, it can be really judgmental and really divisive around you trade one drug for another. It's like, fuck off. First of all, it's nobody else's business how these individuals run their program. And everyone in, whether it's active addiction or recovery, are in different stages of change, right? Some of them, like you and I, are action and maintenance. We take action in our recovery and we maintain our recovery. But there's a whole lot of people that are still kind of pre-contemplation to contemplation. They're like, maybe I have a problem, maybe I don't. Maybe I can get well, maybe I can't. And then when you're living on the street and you're unhoused, like what is available, right? Mm-hmm. None of in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your basic human needs are not even being met. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if you were ever homeless. I was at one point down in Tempe, Arizona when I was about 22. And strung out on meth, and it was fucked. Like, it was bad. My aunt happened to drive by and see me, pick me up, and within hours, I was on a plane back to Seattle, back to my family. I did keep using drugs, but I did really stay away from white drugs after that. Like, I was really good about that, but I kept doing lots of other things. So I am a huge fan of medically assisted treatment. It's prescribed by the doctor and it's prescribed as to dose daily as prescribed, right? And so the people that aren't dosing daily, yep, they're still getting high, right? But the people that are engaged in their own recovery, and I will put, when I see my client is missing, 3 to 4 days a week of dosing, I put a dose hold on them, and dispensary is like, nope, you got to go see Hash. Can't dose you till you see Hash. So then they come see me and I'm like, okay, what's going on? What are we doing?
And at that point, do they have other things in their system most of the time?
Oh yeah, there's meth, fentanyl. Now we're seeing carfentanil come in.
What's carfentanil?
It's like a much stronger version of fentanyl, which was already ridiculously strong.
100 times stronger than fentanyl.
I mean, it's just a incredibly easy way to overdose and die.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's no bueno. Cocaine has made a big comeback.
So when
and that the pink cocaine is what they're seeing on the street, and that's a synthetic. It's
I'm sure
it's not real cocaine.
Yeah,
it's got, and I'm sure it has some in it, but yeah, it's totally different than what it used to be.
I would love to see my field move into microdosing for addiction. And there are multiple things that you can microdose. In fact, there was a study, I was listening to a podcast about a year ago, and there's a study done in Germany where people with Alzheimer's microdosing LSD has had profoundly positive effects.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. I think the microdosing is really, it can be available for anybody. People who do not want to hallucinate, which are the vast majority of people who do not want to engage in the hallucinogenic effects.
I always thought devils and shit.
See, I did have one bad trip where I was camping and I kept thinking my socks were eating my feet. And I woke up the next morning and I had like 6 pairs of socks half burned in the fire.
Oh,
it was crazy because I kept taking them off and throwing them in the fire. And then I put a new pair on and whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was just weird. But
so, Mike, being an abstinent guy, do you take any pharmaceuticals at all?
No.
Aspirin?
Nope. I refuse to do any of it. On occasion, I'll take an aspirin, but it's usually for when I'm sick or have a fever or something like that. But I can't even remember the last time I took an aspirin.
So if you get, what if something happens and like your doctor prescribes you antibiotics?
Yeah, well, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on antibiotics right now.
Yeah.
Because I've got an infection going on. But yeah. So yes.
So let's say something,
pain relievers or anything like that. No, my last back surgery. Well, Chrissy was there. They nicked my spinal cord during surgery, and that's why I'm in a wheelchair, barely walk. But they had me on. I don't know what it was. Whatever they were giving, I forget what. I don't think it was fentanyl, but it was some kind of opiate. And the doctors was going to let me go and says, okay, we'll prescribe you, 20 milligrams in the morning and 20 milligrams at night. And they go, no. I'm not taking any of those drugs home with me. And so I ended up staying in the hospital for another month and detoxing off of what they were giving me. And so I was there a full 45 days, I think, from the time they gave me the surgery. And I went through physical therapy, learned how to walk again. And then, and the doctor wasn't going to release me unless I took opiates home with me. And I just wasn't going to do that. So I said, well, you can just keep me here then,
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was. I knew what I would do. If somebody gave me, a prescription of 100 frickin' pills, it wasn't going to happen. I know because I was addicted at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, getting out of the hospital, I was addicted. And, it took a long time to break that cycle.
Yeah.
But when I finally got that clarity of mind and, and I'll tell you the story behind that. It was when my sponsor was dying. He had bone cancer. And I can't imagine the pain and agony he was in. And, he wouldn't do any opiates. He was in hospice at my house, and I said, "Come on, Bill, just take something for the pain," because he couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. It was just terrible. Unfortunately, once we put him in hospice, he only lived about 3 days. But the one thing that always struck me was, he goes, "No, Mike, I'm not taking any of that shit. Because when I go out, I want to meet my maker with a clear mind." And that always stuck with me. You know, if he could go through that agonizing pain, and with all the pain he was in, and he would move his arm and break his elbow. I mean, that's how bad it was, you know. And anyway, I just always think of that in the back of my mind. And, you know, I hear, and when people ask me how I can do this, you know, how I can haul drug addicts around that are using or whatever. And because I have him on my shoulder, and I hear him, literally hear his voice. You know, if any of those stinking thinking comes around, the first thing I hear is, you know, play it all the way through, kid. That's what he used to say. Play it all the way through.
Yeah.
You know, and what would happen? Yeah,
Yep.
you know, I'd be dead or in jail or, you know, whatever it might be. So that's me. I mean, that's, you know, that's the way I deal with it. Is if I hadn't had that strong leadership in the beginning from, you know, in 12 steps, and everybody came together. I mean, I had 5 guys, but we all hung around together. That's all we wanted to do is stay clean. And we did everything, you know, fishing, hunting, you know, camping, you know, everything. We did everything together for 5 or 6 years. But I had that tight-knit group of support always, where a lot of people don't have that. They don't have a family anymore. They don't, you know, and don't get me wrong, it took me a while to get my family back. But, you know, a lot of people don't have that support. And that's a big thing. And probably one of the reasons I'm a strong supporter of 12-step groups is if people are really ready. And I remember that last time when I got in trouble and I was sitting on the courtroom steps, and after I got kicked out of probation early, and I got kicked out of treatment early because I had all my fines paid off, everything was done, and I knew my probation officer was trying to trick me, right? And, you know, well, he's just waiting for me to go fuck up, and then I'm going to go to jail, right? But when I hit the sidewalk that time, that's the first thing I thought about was, you know, oh, now I can go use, you know, and nobody can say anything. Everything's, you know, I'm done with all the court shit. But, you know, I had enough sobriety under my belt then that instead of doing that and doing what I always did, I went to a meeting, you know, and that was the first meeting, even though I had, you know, a couple of years clean at that time, was the first meeting I'd been to where I wasn't required or somebody wasn't wanting me to go. You know, it was the first time I went on my own. And, you know, that, you know, I just always think of that, you know, and that was 27 years ago. And I still, to this day, can remember that exactly where I was and why I didn't want to do it. Because I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I just didn't want it anymore.
That's what we talk about when we do an assessment for somebody to get them into inpatient or even outpatient, right? You got to have an assessment. It's the golden key to any of the services in my field. Yep. But there's 6 different dimensions that we go through. And dimension 4 is stage of change. And there's external motivators and there's internal motivators. Mm-hmm. And there's always, for my clients, there's always a ton of external motivators. A lot of times it's legal. Mm-hmm. You're unhoused, you know, you've lost your family, your kids don't talk to you. Like there's all sorts of external motivators, but it's when it becomes internal, like that switch has flipped. I remember waking up on Sunday, January 27th of 1992. I was living with my girlfriend and I just knew it. I was never, ever going to get high or drink again. I knew it through every fiber of my being. And I didn't even really tell anyone in my family. Oh, and I left her the next day, moved back to my great grandma's, which was a really wonderful place to live. And I didn't even really tell much of my family or anybody because, you know, I had been to treatment multiple times. I tried to get clean multiple times, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to wait. And when I had my year, I remember I had a big party. I did what AA tells you not to do. I invited my AA friends and I invited my family, but it was lovely. It was wonderful. And it was such a huge celebration for me. And I was about 10 years clean before my mom finally said, yes, you are an addict. Because I said, look, look at the 15 years prior and then these last 10, right? So a total of 25 years. Look what happened in those 15 years. I haven't lost a job. I haven't wrecked a car. I haven't shown up with black eyes and bruises. I've come to all the family functions. I have money in the bank, like all of these things that I could never manage, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, I do not know what it was that happened for me. I have no idea, but I knew when I woke up that day. I remember walking out the door with my coffee and a cigarette and being like, I'm fucking done. I am absolutely done.
At that point, you started putting day after day after day together.
Yes.
Right? And there again, you went to AA. I went to AA because there wasn't a lot of NA in the Everett area at the time. And, I go to all the 12-step groups, to be honest. But, it's all about you were ready and you hit that point. And I know a lot of people that did. That's the same thing with me. When I hit the sidewalk that time, that's exactly what every bit of my being, I knew I was done.
Yeah.
And I was sick and tired of doing what I did. I didn't want to go to jail anymore because I had 5 years of prison hanging over my head for a really stupid thing, for road rage, because the state of Washington was trying to make an example of me because I like to bump people off the road. But
fun.
It was. I mean, I had great big huge steel bumpers on my Jeep. I mean, 1/2-inch steel bumpers, right? I mean, my Jeep wasn't going to get hurt. But that's what I used to tell people. I said, you know what the difference is between your Mercedes and my Jeep? I don't give a shit about your Mercedes.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Internal factors, external factors.
Right. Yeah.
So you talked about the external and you gave an example. What about the internal factors you're seeing?
So that's what I work with on clients. That's basically like the heart of my job. And who knows what it's going to be, how it's going to be, or when it's going to be, right? I have no idea because I don't know where mine came from. If I did, I would bottle it and give it to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know it happened, but you can see it in somebody when it happens. Like you can see it. Mm-hmm. There's just their eyes are different, their face, everything is, their voice is different. Everything is different.
Yeah. And for some people, it takes a lot longer.
Oh, 100%.
And now with fentanyl and whatever they're putting in the meth and the everything, I mean, I'm seeing clients that it literally takes 2 years for them to get clarity of mind enough that they want to really make a change. If they can get 2 years together, because it takes 18 months to get that shit out of your system. Yeah. Right. And then I see clarity of mind. I'm thinking of an example right now, and I won't bring up his name, but, he's been with us for 2 years, and the transformation in his life from the time he came in until the last 6 months is like night and day.
Yeah, it is like night and day. And that's one of the things I work with that I can have some level of control over because I meet the client where they're at, right? I can't push, I can't push. Like it's not about that, not about getting mad at them, but I do a lot of motivational interviewing. Like that's what my job really consists of. But the dosing, I really try to get on them with the dosing, getting the dosey bells and getting that dose up, because the higher up we get the dose and the more consistent we have the dosing, the higher probability they are going to begin to see some changes in their life that will help promote that internal change, right?
Mm-hmm. And when they relapse, do you notice it more from external or internal issues?
There's been two surprising things that I have learned in my over a decade in this field. And this does relate to your question of why people relapse. Because the Dimension 5 in an assessment is all about relapse. And so you ask a lot of questions around that. And the two surprising things I have learned is, one is how many men have been sexually abused. That's one that I never thought a lot about and didn't really know about. And I can't tell you how many times men have broken down at my desk crying because it's a question I ask. It's in Dimension 3 in the mental health part. It's a question I ask, and because it's in the assessment, and I'm the first person they've ever told. And so we just sort of pause and let them be, and you just hold still and support. The second thing I've learned is the number one reason that I've learned about as a reason for relapse is boredom. Mm-hmm. Boredom. Almost
I feel like
always.
they're missing something.
Yeah, it's boredom. And so, I'm working with them to dose every day and get them to a therapeutic dose. And I just cannot shake my internal belief that microdosing would really pave the way. Not because just about everyone I talk to when I do an assessment, and I've probably done several thousand at this point, is almost always they've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, ADD, and depression. Like almost always, those are the ones, right?
So how is it to look at a client and know in your soul that something like microdosing psilocybin would help them, and you're in a field that might be a conflict of interest?
Oh yeah, I don't talk about it because I can't, right? I took the job. I agreed to do the job. These are the rules of the agency that I work at. I can't talk about those things there. I can talk about it here. And this is just my deep held belief. I absolutely believe in the benefits of MAT. I just think that microdosing, not only would it address the addiction piece, it could definitely support the mental health piece, right? You can go to, I went to a ketamine clinic in Spokane. I did do a dose of ketamine. It just so happened that was the day I was tested positive for COVID. I was so sick. But I had gone through so much to get accepted to the clinic. I had to meet with the psychiatric ARNP for a little over an hour. And I told her that I felt like I was at a spiritual wall and I couldn't get through. And I desperately, desperately wanted to try something different. And I'd done a lot of research and read a lot about it and felt this could be a viable path. I didn't go back only because it was $500 a dose. I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
I did it that one time, but I couldn't afford it. And then the mushrooms came up and I found somebody I trusted and I got them and I bought like an ounce and they were great. And I just feel like this is
only an ounce?
Well, I was microdosing. I bought a scale. Unfortunately, my scale only went down to 1 gram. And when you microdose, you want to do like a quarter, maybe a half. But anyway, so I would just put 1 gram on there and then I'd scrape half of it off and I would take the other half. But
I feel like the stigma would be lifted if those substances were given to the patient and from someone in a white coat.
Well, and then there's that, right? And so now there are clinics in Oregon that are doing this. In Washington, they have decriminalized it, but it's not legal. Like we will be next. Oregon has legalized it. Colorado's legalized it. We're getting there.
Kratom. What do you know about kratom?
I've used it a few times. There's a nerve like right here on the back of my shoulder that every so often will get pinched. And I mean, there's no amount of opiate that would even help it. I've tried kratom and it has helped. And I've only done that like 3 or 4 times. That's the 7H
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's bueno.
No.
There's all kinds of different ones.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff that you can get,
But they, I just heard they made it illegal in the state of Washington. Is that true? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Not that I'm aware of. It's still for sale at the gas station.
I thought too.
I would not buy anything for my health. There's nothing healthy at the gas station anymore.
No, I agree.
I mean, if you want a Slurpee, that's not healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of
Red
kratom.
number die 40 and Slurpee.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of kratom. I'm a fan of intention. Right. My intention with microdosing was to manage my anxiety because it had become really problematic for me. And I felt like I was held hostage and I did not know how to get, and I've been to the therapist. I go to a therapist. I've been to multiple therapists in my adult life and I go for 6-8 months. I'm doing well. I, peace out for a couple of years. Then I go back and then that's the way I do it. Most people do therapy more consistently. This is what works for me. But it wasn't enough. And this was, right? This was enough. And I just feel like it's so expansive in what it can do, is not just the addiction piece, but also the mental health piece. Now, at my clinic, we not only dose methadone, so have that medical component, and then you have the clinical component, which is me and 10 other counselors. And then we also have mental health, and we have a psychiatric ARNP that can prescribe, antidepressants or whatever for the people engaged in mental health if that's what they want. I just feel like this overall is a far, far better, microdosing is a far, far better and more effective way to address all of this.
What about somebody who already has severe mental illness, such as paranoid schizophrenia or, multiple personality disorder or whatever it might be? Has that been any research on that?
So what I have read, and you can't quote me on this, is that people with severe psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia, it could put them into an episode that they may not come out of. So, yeah. So, more science definitely needs to be done around that. There's Ibogaine, there's Psilocybin, there's LSD, there's DMT, there's ayahuasca, there's peyote. I mean, there's a lot of things, but I
took a trip to Arizona one time for peyote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all hallucinogenics, but they all produce different effects. I like psilocybin because it's straight out of the earth, right? And they grow here in the Pacific Northwest wild, and just in the cow poop. Yeah, and we used to pick them down in Auburn, and it just seems like a more organic approach, which is one of the things I like about it, and it's much more easily controlled in terms of dose, where LSD may or may not be.
We found a virgin field one time, and this buddy of mine calls me and goes, "Grab some bags and come down here." So anyway, I meet him down not far from the office here. It was an old cow pasture. Probably cows hadn't been in it forever, but the ground was fertile anyway. But these mushrooms grew that big.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they were freaking huge.
Yeah.
And we got 2 50-gallon bags full, right?
Yeah.
We're going to go to California and get rid of them, right?
Yeah.
We made it to Seattle when we were all so messed up. We ended up sitting there for like 3 days and dumping everything out. And, oh, God, I'll never do those again. All paranoid and shit.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, the macro dosing, that's a really, really, really individual decision if somebody wants to do that. I wasn't afraid of it because I had done it back in the day when I was actively using. But doing it in recovery, it basically speeds up the process of microdosing. Like they recommend that you do that. There's ketamine, there's all sorts of ways to do these things. But intention, I think, is the biggest piece. Like, what is your intention? What's your duration? Who are you sourcing them from? Right? Can you trust them that these are legitimate?
Right.
You're not going to take a couple grams of mushrooms and then die because they're poisonous. Like, who are you getting them from?
Yeah.
So this is like why I want to grow my own, right? And then see what happens. I'm really excited about it.
Well, and the legalization will help out with that a lot, in the research, where they can actually study it. And all drugs come from the earth in some way.
In some way, yeah.
Poppies or the roots.
They were doing a big study at UW recently for microdosing first responders. And they had a big study going on at UW. That's going on at college, at big medical schools all over the US, all over Europe. Like, it's happening everywhere.
Well, we won't see it prevalent until the pharmaceutical companies can get their little fingers on a piece of it.
Well, yeah, they're trying to. So the pharmaceutical companies right now are trying to synthesize.
Of course, they want to petroleumize or synthesize.
Yeah, the hallucinogenic compound. Like, I'm able to buy the spores legally because the spores do not contain the hallucinogenic compound. It's not until the mushroom grows then that compound comes out. But you can legally buy the spores. I bought 2 syringes of spores. What were they called? I told you earlier, but Golden something, and then Jedi Mindfuck was the other one.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to grow the other one first.
Gold and,
yeah.
The Thai stick.
Yeah. But they send you the 2 syringes and you start them off in a little tiny tray.
little petri dish.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. A little petri dish, and in a 75 to 80 degree environment for a few weeks. And once they start to get all white and fuzzy, you pull them back into the syringe, and then they send you a bag of this special dirt. It's got these oat things at the bottom, and then some other type of dirt, and then a third type of dirt. I don't know. It's a specialized compound they make, and you inject it into that and let them grow.
Yeah.
See what happens. And I'm really, really excited. Did you ever watch? What is the name of that Netflix special?
My friend, the
Fantastic Fungi.
Yes.
No.
Oh, you should watch that. This guy, I can't remember his name right off the bat, but he is like the biggest mushroom expert on the planet. And he's the one in the Fantastic, and it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautifully filmed documentaries I've ever seen. But his mother, he was doing this for Bastyr University in Seattle.
I graduated there.
Yeah, the homeopathic university, and grew all sorts of mushrooms. But his mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and he microdosed her. I don't remember how. It was a few years ago. I watched it. I should watch it again. And he microdosed her, and she was fine afterwards. I do not believe she did chemo or radiation. I don't think she engaged in that. But he didn't microdose her with psilocybins. He microdosed her with like lion's mane and like all of these other like really healthy, beneficial. And fungus creates what really resembles a neural pathway when they're in the wild, creates what's like a neural pathway under the ground, reaching out to all vegetation. And it does look like a neural pathway. Like, it's really amazing. I'm so excited to grow these and see what happens.
Yeah, Mike will be your guinea pig.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that things that are from the earth are here for a reason, and we have receptors all over our body for different chemicals that come from the earth. It's when we start separating them and bastardizing them and synthesizing and petroleum, we're trying to make money off of it. It all goes awry.
It does.
And so, unfortunately though, people are going to think things are safer if they're getting it from somebody in a white coat.
Yeah.
And, the stigma that someone in recovery goes to an AA meeting and doesn't want to admit that they're on Suboxone because they don't want to be judged by the rest of the room, their personal judgment from themselves are saying, I'm not really sober.
Yeah. Okay. It bums me out. It bums me out that 12-step, 12-step can also be, AA can also be really judgmental towards, heroin addicts or fentanyl addicts or whatever. And it's
like alcoholics for the addicts too. But I think that it's starting to calm. They're starting to coexist, and that stigma is going away. But if you announced at the AA meeting or an NA meeting that you were, microdosing mushrooms, everybody would giggle, magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Well, and I just look at it, everybody's got their own opinion, but how'd I put it? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
And they all stink.
Whatever, and they all stink.
Yeah. Yes, but in new and recovery, that's a very brave place to be. Most people are looking for support, recognition,
And when I hear that,
validation.
I always try and go and talk to the newcomers. Anytime I go to a meeting, I want to hear what they are and what their story might be, as much as they want to divulge. But I never pass, myself personally. I don't pass judgment that way. I was at a camp out where, this guy was there and he was just a freaking loudmouth and putting everybody down because he felt like he was an alcoholic and he was better than everybody else. And I just wanted to go, dude, you live in a fucking camper, give me a break, how's that any better? And it was a rundown piece of shit too. But anyway, and just loudmouth. And I looked at him like that, that's a really stupid opinion, but whatever, it's yours, not mine.
Yeah.
So,
I'm the decider, right?
Right.
I get to decide who I am, what I am, how I present to the world. I've had people against me, the federal government wants to criminalize homosexuality. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with all of
who
that.
wants to do that?
Stephen Miller and who's
Criminalize.
Yes, criminalize.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, they're the deep right-wing conservatives that are really in powerful positions in our federal government, Hegseth. his spiritual advisor, he runs that church in Moscow, Idaho. And he does not believe women should vote, that it should be head of the household.
Yeah. He's a little behind the times with that.
But he is also Pete Hegseth's, like, they're very, very close. That guy went and spoke at Easter at the White House. Like, all I'm saying is that nobody gets to decide who I am, right?
Right.
And I've had the shit kicked out of me by people back in the day for being gay, being a dyke, being whatever it was that they wanted to say. Personally, I like the word dyke. I love it a lot. I think it's powerful. I really own it. I love it. People want to use it as a put down, but it's like, come on. If you're going to put me down, you need to work for it.
Yeah.
You pick the most obvious thing. Like, yeah, be
and
clever.
something I want to pull from what you're saying right now is that you have a long history of not giving any fucks and being very independent.
Just holding my space.
Exactly. So you have a unique position if you were to offer something that has worked for you in your recovery as part of your mental health, but not everyone is so brave.
Correct. And if I also think that hallucinogenics, again, specifically psilocybins, have the opportunity to open people's minds up and to take down the fear, because every single thing we say or we do comes from one of two places. It comes from fear or it comes from love. That is the base root of everything that we say and do. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that hallucinogenics have that ability to really, especially now in such a deeply divisive country that we live in, that is really running on a lot of hate. Mm-hmm. And to break down that fear. It all comes from fear.
Absolutely. I went to Olympus Spa, which is a lady spa in Linwood, and they were having a protest outside. Mm-hmm. And there was a trans woman that wanted to come into the spa, and the spa had religious beliefs against that, and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, they had a big hoo-ha. And I've never really been to a protest, or at least I hadn't at that point. And we had the conservative Christians that were blasting biblical hymns and American flags and the whole nine. And then on the other side, we had rainbow flags and black umbrellas. They were, everybody was fit for battle and clashing and yelling and screaming. And the cops were around the perimeter. And I walked around the entire thing and I stood right in the middle between the two sides and I just closed my eyes. And as an empath, I really just wanted to feel what this was, because I didn't think I would ever experience it. I was only there on accident. And from both sides, I felt they just wanted to be heard. Mm-hmm. And they were so sad and scared.
Yes.
Both sides.
Yes.
They were terrified.
Well, and
if they could just communicate on their vulnerability, they'd have a lot more in common than they would think.
So, what does everybody want? We want to be able to live in our homes, pay our bills, afford to eat some food, and just live just a pretty clear path of a life of doing those things. And then whatever happens along the way, whether we get married or have children or however that works out, that's what pretty much everybody wants. Everybody wants to be seen and everybody wants to be heard. All of this backlash against the trans community, which by the way is like less than 1% of the population, is a way to trigger and heat up.
Which it works really well.
It does work really well. Like,
everyone is completely triggered right now.
Yeah, it's really shocking.
And going back to the psilocybin and any hallucinogen, in my opinion,
connection.
Exactly.
It brings connection.
It opens your antenna.
Yes.
You realize that we're all
and it brings
one.
Connection.
It simplifies.
And it has that ability to bring connection to understand that we are not divided, man. That's a lie.
Well, and then one thing I will say positive about Trump is that he declassified ibogaine.
Yeah, he did. It's going for FDA approval.
What is it?
Ibogaine.
Oh,
which they've been using in
for
Mexico
PTSD,
for years.
People coming out of combat,
and opioid disorder.
It's amazing.
And alcoholism.
Wow.
Resets your nerve.
It's a
good for him.
It's kind of a big one. Like if you engage in ibogaine, like it's a really intense experience. that's really going to run you. I've never done it, but this is what I've read.
It gives you like flashcards of your entire life. You're seeing it from a third person real fast.
Yeah.
I can live that anyway without it, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's connection. Like I will tell you, when I was in school to do this, I watched one of the students in my, not my practicum, but in class, we were presenting these projects, and he showed this YouTube video of Johann Hari, and it's like 15 years old now, and it's called "Everything You Thought You Knew About Addiction Was Wrong." And it's like a 15-minute TED Talk, and at the end of it, it's connection, 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 and that fundamentally shifted my whole entire paradigm of my own recovery, other people's recovery, my own addiction, their addiction. Like it shifted me. It was several months that this was right at the top of my brain, continuously like looping. And it shifted my whole paradigm about how I felt about all of it. It was really incredible. And connection, that is where it is at. Right?
I agree.
And that's one thing that
we can do together.
Yeah. And that's one thing that hallucinogenics have proven to do, is to dim down that fear, dim down those barriers, and understand that, we are all one. This is exactly why Nixon did what he did in 1971, because so many people were, tune in, turn off, drop out. Like so many people.
Have you ever read Bill's story?
Yeah, he did LSD.
He did LSD.
Yeah.
And so did, the CIA played with it.
Yeah.
They've all, done evil things with it.
Yeah.
So that's a big stigma too. But, I don't know enough about it, to say yay or nay, so I'll just.
But you're open-minded enough to have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's exactly where it begins. Like I've turned my mom, hardcore, triple trumper supporter, big time, not Christian, but she's hardcore and all of that. And it really creates like this, for me, as a gay person, it really creates this cognitive distortion for me about how she can support this man who is so racist and homophobic, like all of these things that I really struggle with. But one thing I have turned her on is her point of view towards hallucinogenics. Like she was never an addict. She was never, a big partier. She lived a pretty straight-laced life. Right. And, really like, I think to this day, she cannot figure out how I am her daughter, because I am not. She would have loved you. She does love me. Let me just state that. But I am not the daughter she wanted, right? And equally, I would have liked to have had a more supportive mother, But we have found our way. In my 50, I'm 59 now. In my 50s, we have found our way. But I have really turned her on her viewpoint towards hallucinogenics over the years. Like I've really got her to kind of come and to where she'll have conversations with me and actually be engaged. And I don't feel judgment or like, oh, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Or anything like that. Like she asks questions, she's interested, like, and she's supportive. I mean, she hasn't said that, but she doesn't say anything negative about it, which is positive. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm looking forward to the day where we can really get some good discussions and for more people to have these experiences without the stigma of magic mushrooms and tripping balls.
Yeah.
I've watched clients come in with a briefcase full of medications from the facility they're coming to me from.
Yeah.
They don't know how
Psych
those
meds,
mix.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
Trazodone.
20 of them. Every day.
Yeah, just sheet after sheet after sheet, and they're sweating and they're not sleeping and they're taking this for sleep and not. I'm like, what's going on? And they don't even know what they're taking. And nothing against the detox centers or the treatment centers that they're doing the best they can. They're giving them what was given to the provider.
Right.
This is and this is coming from the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies and blah 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 blah. This is what's regulated. But at the same time, I don't think that they actually really understand all the chemical makeup of these individuals, and everybody's different. You can't just blanket diagnose, but we're creating these pharma junkies,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so if you can get a psilocybin experience in one time, have the effect of 20 years on Prozac.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. And it doesn't have to be for the rest of your life.
Right.
When I went into menopause, I was a smoker at the time, and my doctor was like, "Well, we can't do any sort of hormone therapy because you're a smoker and too high a risk of stroke." So he put me on Effexor. I really should have read about it, but I will say that night I went and picked it up after work and took one that night, and that was the first night I slept all the way through the night in months because I had such horrible hot flashes. My menopause was horrid. And it took it all away. And what I didn't realize at the time is it's an SNRI, where Prozac's SS, so
Serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Yes.
SSRI.
Selective serotonin reuptake. So SNRI is serotonin and norepinephrine. So Wellbutrin, Effexor, those are two of the big ones. And the norepinephrine really sort of helps to manage anxiety to a certain point. But getting off of it a few years later was freaking horrible.
Really?
Oh my God. And I titrated down over like a 24-day period. And it was because I didn't want to keep taking it. It's generally prescribed for depression. This was not prescribed for that because I don't have that. Definitely anxiety.
And they prescribed it forever.
Well, at least through menopause.
Did your doctor ever speak to you about tapering?
Well, we ended up moving from Seattle to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, like a couple years later. So, I didn't have that conversation with him, and I just kept taking it. And I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to take this anymore. And I read about the withdrawal. So I titrated down thinking 24 days, right, off of an antidepressant, like that would be okay. And I cut my pills up into teeny, where the last one was like my finger and put it in my mouth. But man, for the next couple of weeks, and then you have the brain zaps, but the mood swings were crazy. It was awful. Awful. Anyway.
I got prescribed a bunch of bipolar medication and antidepressants. Turns out I was hypoglycemic because I was an alcoholic.
Oh.
They misdiagnosed me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm not bipolar.
I'll tell you, I'm sorry, but I don't trust doctors at all after they nicked my spinal cord. And then
did they apologize?
He actually, I was in the intensive care unit when I finally came to, and because they kept me in a coma and they had to take me back into surgery because they realized what they had done and had to go in and repair the bursa, around the spinal cord. But that and I just don't trust them. I don't trust what they, because they just want to. Matter of fact, I had an argument with my doctor the other day because I've had this E. coli for so long, over 3 years. And I said, I'm sick and tired. I've been on antibiotics for 3 frickin' years, off and on, right? And at one point, they put me on antibiotics for a full year. I had to take one pill a day, for 6 months, and then that still didn't work. I said, so I'd argued with him. I said, look, we're treating a symptom here. Let's find the root problem.
Yeah, that's what medical.
I'm sick and tired of this shit.
Western
let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, it was a new doctor who was listening to me because my normal doctor was out of town or whatever. So I got to see this new doctor, and she goes, "Yeah, let's do some more tests." And what do they find? They find an internal infection they didn't know I had. That it sunk in there. So I'm hoping, because I'm on antibiotics now, but I'm hoping that goes away this next time. But what I'm saying is, doctors aren't doctors anymore. Doctors are run by the insurance companies.
Well, our whole medical system is.
Yes. And so, because when I was growing up, my mom was a nurse, and she was one of the founding nurses at the Everett Clinic here, which is now Optum, but which is owned by Apple Health. Optum is owned by Apple Health. So now the insurance companies have figured out, and they bought 164 clinics last year, that if the insurance companies own the doctors, then the doctors do what they say to do.
Yes.
And so you got an insurance company who's not a doctor, And you got a fake doctor with a degree that listening to somebody that isn't a doctor on what they can and cannot prescribe.
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a
It
freaking
is.
joke.
It is.
And
This is why we need universal health care.
Yeah.
That would solve it.
Well, that's what they're trying. That's what Apple Health is mainly, but I in my mind, how is that not a freaking monopoly?
Yeah. 100%.
Right? How is that not a monopoly?
Yeah. 100%.
They need to take that away from the insurance companies and bring back, because like I said, when I was a kid, we got world-class care.
Yeah.
My mom would take us in and, all the whole deal.
Yeah.
But
Agreed. Well, I am looking forward to the time when we have clinics that offer microdosing therapy, and I will be the first one to be in line to be hired to work there. And then to also offer the clinical support as well, because you and I, we all know that once you get clean, now you have to figure out how to live life. Like I was like almost 25 years old when I got clean. And the last time I had nothing in my system, I was literally 10 years old. I was smoking pot when I was 11 and drinking when I could. And so learning, you still need that clinical piece. It's not just microdose, for 4 days a week or whatever it is. Like it's also the clinical piece and teaching life skills and offering medical support, because, people come in and their health is like so deteriorated, dental, like all the things, right?
Well, and now they're dealing with all the same issues in Technicolor. There's no hiding from it. They're feeling all those feelings. The memories are coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and those could be some of the internal issues that they relapse over. But I don't know. I'm a huge proponent.
And that's why it's so important for what we do here at Nick's Place, Encourage to Change, is that we don't shoot the wounded. We listen to what they have to say and we try and help. And when they're ready, they'll tell us what's going on or what they need.
Yep. That's right.
And so it takes, we're 90 days typically is what our model says. But, we've got guys that have been here for over 2 years.
Yeah.
And are finally now blossoming. And, when I'm thinking about him, I'm just so proud of him for where he's gone, because, he didn't have a tooth in his head and all so on and so forth. And he's got dentures now and he's doing just amazing. Got a new girlfriend and
And she's in recovery too.
Good. Yeah. Those are the things, right? Is like learning like now how do I build my life, right? And so I do want to say that what Mike offers in terms of getting people to detox, because inpatient will not take you. As soon as you walk in the door, they UA you. And if you're positive for any substances, nope, bye, out. So you have to go to detox, really.
Yep.
Unless you're going to do it on your own, which probably not.
Never happens.
Yep. So you do need to go to detox. And unfortunately, it's not, 12 to 14 days like it should be. It's like 3 to 6. And then you go to inpatient for 28 days, which is absolutely ridiculous. It should be a minimum of 90 days. Also, Evergreen just opened up a 90-day inpatient women's place in Everett.
Right down here.
Yeah, right down here.
It.
Yeah.
I got 3 women in down there now.
And they got the male one up north. But that's amazing. I really try to push my clients to do the 90-dayer. They will or they won't. And so I do what they will do. But Mike offers a service in terms of transportation, which has continuously been, I could bitch about my field for days, but it's continuously been the big gap. Like, oh, you want to go to detox? Do you have anyone that can take you? I can't take, you know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous. So I can reach out to Mike, who 99.9% of the time answers the phone. Like, hey, I got so-and-so, they want to go to detox. I'll do the intake with them at my office and make sure that's all good. And then Mike will show up, pick them up at our clinic and he'll take their doses of methadone, get them to detox. He'll give those doses to the nurses in detox, who will then dose that client every day. And then, if they can get into inpatient, he'll move them on. But I mean, having that gear in there to keep the process moving forward is amazing. And what you offer is unbelievable. I've never had it in my field until I met you. Mm-hmm. And it's a lifesaver, continuously a lifesaver. Mm-hmm. It's just trying to get them to commit to that.
Yeah.
Commit to that.
Well, like we talked about, you can't,
nope.
You can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink.
No.
It's just a matter of time, and the trick is to be there when they're ready.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with methadone, as you well know, there's a process. We have to get, federal approval and all that stuff, and
to get the carries. Yeah.
And so it sometimes takes more time, but we've been successful on a few, that make that commitment and want to go, and follow through. Probably more not than have, but the seed has been planted, and they know there's a route to get out if they want it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And we will work our asses off to support that. Yeah. Like I will do all the things I need to do. And it's a process, but I am more than willing to engage in it time after time after time after time. People often ask me that don't really know anything about my field and like, so what is the success rate? And it's like, well, how do you define success? Like, what is, when you're asking me that question, what is it you mean? Right. And it's all over the map. Mm-hmm. Right. And there's people who engage in methadone and get clean and they got the housing and they've got maybe have a job or they're going to school, they got their kids back and their partner, blah, blah, all the things. And then 3 years down the road, wrong person, wrong place, and they relapse. Yep. But then it's like, all right, let's get you back on the path. Mm-hmm. You did it. Let's do it again.
And once they've had that moment of clarity, they remember, that it is possible and that there are people out there to support them.
Yeah, we just keep showing up every day. I mean, that's our job, is to show up every day, right?
And very few people, with the exception of a couple, have I said enough is enough. And I love you all the way, but I've taken you 27 times. You know where it's at. You know the phone numbers. When you left detox last time, you left on your own. You got a ride somehow back from Timbuktu. Yeah. And so you know what? You need to just follow through and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll love you and be there for you and help you when you get out, but you got to figure it out.
Yeah. And that's okay too. Yeah. I think setting boundaries, this is one of the things that I work with our newer clinicians on, because it takes a good 2 to 3 years in the field to get really sort of like get your groove and really understand all the things that you're doing, because it's a lot. But I work with them on setting boundaries, because in setting a boundary, if I'm setting a boundary with you, Mike, not only am I serving what it is that I need, but I'm supporting you as well. I'm letting you know, like, this is okay, this isn't okay, and helping you understand how to be with me. And that's a good thing for you. And it's a good thing for me. When someone sets a boundary with me, I respect that. Like, okay, cool. Now I know. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I don't think you're being a bitch. Mm-hmm. I think that you're doing a good job of communicating what it is that works well for you. And that's a good thing, is that communication. Mm-hmm. And understanding that you can't, you're helping the client understand what works for them and what doesn't, as well as for you. Mm-hmm. And teaching the clinicians how to hold boundaries, because you kind of come into the field with this like savior, like, I'm going to save all these people, and that's 100% not it. You're going to be there to support them on their path, whatever that path looks like. Yep. And that's what we do.
Yeah, people call all the time and say, "Oh, thank you so much," and if it wasn't for you, I would, that's not true. I just happen to be in the right place at the right time and help you get to that next step. I had nothing to do with your recovery. You hold that key.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You need to, and from where you do from this point on, is up to you. I'm grateful I could be there to help.
Yeah. You've made the decision day after day after day, because I get messages through Facebook or Instagram of clients that find me on there. And, this big, long message. And it's like, it's beautiful and amazing that they want to share that with me, because it really does make my heart happy, for sure. Right. Mm-hmm. That 8 years ago or 6 years ago, right, I was also in the right place at the right time. I'm like, but never, ever, ever forget that day after day after day for all these years, you have made your decisions. Yeah. Like, you hold all that power.
Well, I still think that both of you guys are amazing angels and saved countless lives. So I feel honored to have been sitting here in between you, listening to this really interesting conversation.
Thank you. I'm really grateful.
And if you want to hear more of these or help us support our mission, go to ctcrecovery.org. And this podcast will be on our YouTube page.